Could you give us a brief overview of Live a Praying Life? What will we learn?
Live a Praying Life is a 13-week study, and it handles all the real questions about prayer. I have been on this journey for such a long time. All of my adult life, there's not a question to be asked that I have not asked, because I'm a question asker. And so in Live a Praying Life, you're going to look at the purpose of prayer. If prayer doesn't change God's mind, then what does prayer do? You're going to look at the process of prayer. Why does prayer not work like a vending machine? Why can't I just put in a prayer and get out an answer? Then you're going to look at the promise of prayer. What is it that prayer really promises in my life? What is it that I can count on from prayer? And then finally, we're going to look at the practice of prayer, the discipline of building prayer into your daily life. So we're going to cover prayer from A to Z, and you're going to discover that I'm not afraid to ask the hard questions, and I don't want you to be either, and we're just going to tackle them.
Jennifer, what are the clues that you're living a praying life?
You know, a praying life is something that is continually developing and unfolding. And you're going to notice the change between a sense of responsibility that you have to think up what God should do and talk Him into doing it, and you're never sure you quite got that job done. When you begin to live a praying life, you notice a restfulness, because you know that you have surrendered it to God and He is continually working. And then the other clue that you're beginning to really live a praying life is that you are aware much of the time of an interaction that you're having with Christ that is not necessarily formed into sentences with verbs and nouns, but there's a closeness and an interaction that you're continually having. And a praying life is a little bit hard to just describe in a few words, and your praying life may look and feel different than my praying life, but it is recognizing the continual flow of that relationship that you have with the living and present Jesus.
Jennifer, could you talk to us a little bit about what the greatest misconception is about prayer?
Yes, I love that question, because I think that the biggest misconception we have about prayer is that it is a group of words sandwiched between dear God and amen. And if I can just learn the right words to say and learn the right order to put them in, maybe I can get God to do what I think He should do. And so what happens is that we are on a search for a formula when the key is relationship. And I think in the study of Live a Praying Life, you're going to be freed of that in such a narrow definition of prayer. You're going to understand that it's not about words, it's about heart.
Jennifer, what would you consider the biggest hindrance to prayer?
You know, I think it is that down deep we can't understand how prayer makes sense. Because what we really say is, if God is sovereign, then why am I praying? And we have this dilemma that says, well, am I going to change God through prayer? Because if I am, then He can't be sovereign. And if I'm not, why am I praying? And so I think that if we felt like we could be really honest with each other, we would say, I just don't get it. I just don't get what the purpose is. I just don't get how it works. And so in Live a Praying Life, that is the first thing we're going to come to grips with. That's the first question we're going to come to terms with. If I can't change God through prayer, then why am I praying? And what is the purpose of prayer?
What part can journaling play in a praying life?
You know, a journal is important to keep because it retains our history with God. And I find that as I journal, that as I'm writing things out, things come to me that I hadn't thought of before. There's no specified way that you have to journal. Sometimes what is so effective for me is just journaling my real feelings. I just don't get this. Why is this happening? I need to learn. I need to understand this. And it's just an outpouring of my heart. Now I can go back months and years later and go, oh, how God met me there. And so it's important for solidifying your thoughts, I think. You tend to identify things that if you just let them jumble around in your head, they just stay jumbled around in your head. And you find that as you write them out, it begins to solidify for you. And of course, it creates a history that you have with God.